At first, it was just a sock or a random shirt that went missing. You know how that goes everyone loses clothes in the wash sometimes? I didn't think much of it. It was March 2023, around the tail end of winter, and I was too busy juggling my job at a local hardware store and classes at the community college to care about small stuff like laundry. I'm 23 now, just trying to get my life together like everyone else in this dead-end town. It's one of those places where nothing really happens except the occasional fight at the local bar or someone's car breaking down on the main road. My girlfriend Emily had been coming over regularly since Christmas. We'd been dating for about a year by then. She's smart, grounded, someone who keeps me balanced when my family's drama gets to be too much. Things were going smoothly between us until she started noticing the missing clothes, especially after staying the night. I figured maybe the washing machine ate them or they got mixed up with my younger brother's laundry by accident. But things didn't add up. Socks? Sure. Shirts? Okay, maybe. But by early April, it wasn't just socks and t-shirts anymore, it was Emily's underwear. Her bras. At first, she was hesitant to say anything, probably not wanting to embarrass either of us. I'll never forget the way she looked at me that day standing in my room, arms crossed, her voice lowered like she didn't want anyone else to hear. "Jake," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I swear I had a black lace bra in my bag when I came over last week. It's gone, and this isn't the first time something's disappeared." I blinked, caught off guard. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "Maybe it got mixed up in the laundry pile or fell behind something." I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. She didn't laugh. "I'm serious. First, it was the blue underwear set I wore back in January, then my socks, now this." She paused, giving me a pointed look. "I keep track of my clothes, Jake. I'm not imagining this. The thing is, Emily isn't the kind of person to make a big deal out of nothing. She's practical like that. So when she laid it all out, I knew something was up, I just didn't know what. I thought about my younger brother, Tyler. He's 11, but lately he'd been acting weird skittish almost. He'd lock himself in his room for hours after school, and every time I knocked, he'd bark, "Go away!" like I'd caught him doing something he didn't want me to see. Still, I figured it was just normal preteen stuff. Kids get secretive at that age, right? Emily wasn't convinced. "I don't feel comfortable staying here if this keeps happening," she said, her voice tight. "It's creepy, Jake. I'm sorry, but I need you to figure it out." I promised I would, but honestly, I had no clue where to start. At the time, I thought maybe Tyler was just being careless with laundry and accidentally grabbing some of Emily's stuff when he did his own loads. We shared the same upstairs hallway with our rooms side by side, so it wasn't impossible. I decided to check around the house later that night, hoping to put Emily's mind at ease. I searched through the laundry baskets, under the bed, even behind the couch cushions. Nothing. I tried not to overthink it. I mean, it's not like my little brother would number that was too out there. Tyler was a good kid, if a bit socially awkward. He wasn't some kind of perv, at least. I didn't want to believe that. He'd always been a quiet, introverted kid, spending most of his time gaming or reading. But as the days passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Emily started avoiding sleepovers at my place altogether, which pissed me off more than I cared to admit. "Man, what the hell's going on?" I muttered to myself one evening in late April. I'd come home from work around 7:30 p.m., exhausted and cranky. Tyler was in his room, the door shut as usual. I could hear the faint sounds of some YouTube video playing through the thin walls. I stood outside his door for a moment, debating whether to confront him. The last thing I wanted was to accuse him of something so humiliating if he was innocent. "Yo, Ty," I called out, knocking lightly. "You good in there?" The video abruptly paused. "Yeah, what do you want?" "Nothing, just checking." "You need anything?" "Number." Typical. I was about to walk away when something caught my eye, a glimpse of fabric peeking out from under the door frame. It was subtle, but enough to make my stomach churn. I bent down and gently tugged at the fabric. My blood ran cold. It was one of Emily's brass, the one she'd been freaking out about last week. "Are you kidding me?" I muttered under my breath. Without thinking, I stood up and knocked again, harder this time. "Tyler, open the door." "Why?" His voice had that defensive edge, the kind he used when he knew he was caught doing something he shouldn't. "Just do it, man." There was a long pause before I heard the lock click. The door creaked open a few inches, and Tyler stood there, his face pale. He avoided eye contact, looking down at the floor instead. I pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. His room was a mess, clothes scattered everywhere, empty snack wrappers on his desk. But my eyes zeroed in on the corner of his bed, where a small pile of more clothes sat, half hidden under a blanket. What the hell is this? I demanded, pointing at the pile. Tyler froze, his face turning a deep shade of red. It's not what you think. Don't even try it. I walked over and yanked the blanket away, revealing more of Emily's missing stuffer underwear, another bra, even a couple of her socks. My mind was racing, caught between disbelief and rage. Why, man? Just why? He didn't answer at first. Instead, he backed up against the wall, his eyes darting around like he was looking for an escape. Two don't know, he stammered. I was curious, okay? I didn't mean to. Curious? You think that makes this okay? My voice rose and Tyler flinched. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. Yelling wasn't going to solve anything. Still, the image of him sniffing my girlfriend's underwear flashed in my mind, and I had to clench my fists to keep from losing it completely. I didn't tell anyone yet, I said, my voice lower now but still tense. But you need to explain yourself, or I swear I'm going straight to Mom and Dad. His face crumpled. Please don't. It was late. They'll kill me. Friday night, the 21st of April, 2023. I had the house to myself, well, me and Tyler. Mom and Dad were at some fundraiser event, which meant no interruptions. I was ready to relax after a long day, maybe catch up on some shows. The house was quiet, too quiet, with only the faint hum of the fridge in the kitchen. I could hear muffled sounds from Tyler's room, probably him watching YouTube videos like always. But something about tonight felt different. Call it instinct. I wasn't expecting anything weird to happen, but when I passed by Tyler's door, I saw it was cracked open slightly. Normally, his door was locked whenever I walked by. I hesitated, thinking maybe he didn't notice it was ajar. Quietly, I stepped closer. That's when I saw it. Tyler was sitting on his bed, facing the far wall. He was hunched over, holding something in his hands, turning it over nervously. I leaned in a bit more, and my eyes adjusted to the dim light. My stomach dropped. It was a black lace bray Emily's, the one she'd been freaking out about for weeks. I froze, my mind racing in disbelief. Tyler hadn't noticed me yet. He brought the bra closer to his face, inhaling. I felt like my entire body locked up, rage and confusion twisting in my gut. What the actual hell was going on? What the fuck are you doing? I burst out, shoving the door open. Tyler jumped like he'd been electrocuted. He fumbled with the bra, trying to hide it behind his back. His face turned ghostly pale before quickly flushing deep red. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Jake, two wasn't. It's not what it looks like, he stammered. Oh, really? I stepped inside, slamming the door shut behind me. Because it looks like you're sniffing my girlfriend's fucking underwear. No, I wasn't. He scrambled off the bed, still clutching the bra behind him. He kept glancing around like he was searching for a way out. Two wasn't sniffing it, I swear! Don't bullshit me, Tyler. I pointed toward him, my voice tight with fury. How many times have you done this? How long have you been stealing her clothes? His eyes widened in sheer panic. I didn't steal them. I found them, okay? Don't even try it. I cut him off, stepping closer. Emily's been losing her shit over this for weeks. You seriously think I'm gonna believe you just found her stuff lying around? I don't know, he yelled, his voice cracking. I wasn't thinking, all right. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Hurt anyone? I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. You think this is just about hurting someone? Do you even understand how fucked up this is, man? You stole her clothes. That's creepy as hell. Tyler flinched at the word creepy. He slowly sank back onto his bed, his head hanging low. His hands trembled as he finally let the bra fall onto the mattress. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The room felt suffocating, the tension thick enough to choke on. I don't know why I did it, he whispered after a long pause. I was curious. Curious, I repeated, spitting the word like it left a bad taste in my mouth. That's your excuse? You're curious? So you steal from your brother and violate his girlfriend's privacy? What the hell, Tyler? I don't know, he sniffled, wiping at his eyes. I didn't plan it or anything. I didn't even think anyone would notice. I'm sorry, okay? I sighed, pacing the small room. I wanted to keep yelling, to tell him just how disgusting and wrong this was. But seeing him like that terrified, ashamed, it took some of the fire out of me. He wasn't some malicious creep. He was an awkward, confused kid who had clearly gotten in way over his head. Still, that didn't change what he'd done. You know I can't just let this go, right? I said finally, my tone softer but still firm. Emily's gonna want answers. And what do you think Mom and Dad are gonna say when they find out? No, please, Jake. He shot up from the bed, panic flashing across his face. Don't tell them. They'll kill me. I'll stop, I swear. I'll throw everything away and never do it again. I crossed my arms, narrowing my eyes at him. How am I supposed to believe that? Please, he begged. His voice cracked again and he looked close to breaking down completely. I'll do anything. Just don't tell them. I'll apologize to Emily. I'll get rid of everything. Stop. I held up a hand, cutting him off. You think an apology is going to fix this? You need help, Tyler. Like professional help. This isn't normal. I don't need a therapist, he mumbled, staring at the floor. I just made a mistake. A really bad mistake. No shit. I sighed again, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. My head throbbed as I tried to figure out what to do next. On one hand, Tyler was my brother. I didn't want to destroy his life over this. But on the other hand, Emily deserved the truth. I couldn't keep this secret from her. Here's the deal, I said after a long pause. I won't tell Mom and Dad yet, but if I catch you pulling any more of this crap, all bets are off. And you better pray Emily doesn't ask too many questions, because I'm not lying for you. Thank you, he whispered, his shoulders sagging with relief. Don't thank me. I turned and walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. Get your shit together, Tyler. Seriously. Without waiting for a response, I left the room, slamming the door behind me. My heart was pounding, my thoughts racing. How the hell had things gotten this bad? I needed time to think, but there was no escaping the truth. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a pit in my stomach. I barely slept after the disaster with Tyler the night before. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him holding Emily's bra, his face flushed with shame and fear. I kept replaying the moment in my head, wondering if I'd handled it the right way. Should I have told him off harder? Should I have gone straight to my parents? But then what? Mom and Dad had their own way of handling things, and it was rarely good. Dad would probably blow up, calling Tyler all kinds of names while Mom cried and told him he was a disappointment. That would only make things worse. Tyler was already scared out of his mind. Still, keeping this a secret wasn't sitting well with me either. I couldn't pretend nothing happened, especially not with Emily. I stared at my phone for a long time, debating whether to text her. What the hell was I supposed to say? Hey, babe. Found your missing bra. Oh, and by the way, my little brother was the one stealing your stuff. Yeah, right. She'd lose her mind. And honestly, I wouldn't blame her. Instead, I threw on some clothes and headed downstairs. Tyler's door was shut, and I could hear faint music playing from inside. Good. I wasn't ready to face him yet. I needed time to think. I made myself a bowl of cereal and sat at the kitchen table, going over my options. I had two main problems. One, keeping things under control with Tyler, and two, dealing with Emily. No matter how I looked at it, this situation was going to explode sooner or later. Halfway through my breakfast, my phone buzzed. It was Emily. Emily, hey, what's up? Me. Not much. Just waking up. Emily, you good? You seemed kind of off last time we talked. Of course, she noticed. Emily could always read me like a book. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Should I tell her now or wait? Me? Yeah, just stressed about work. It was a weak excuse, and I knew it wouldn't hold for long, but I needed more time. Emily, I get it. We still good for dinner tonight? Me. Yeah. Pick you up at 7? Emily. Sounds good. I sighed, setting my phone down. I had until tonight to figure out what to say. There was no way I could keep dodging her forever. The rest of the day dragged on. I stayed in my room, trying to distract myself with video games, but I couldn't focus. Tyler didn't leave his room at all. Normally, that wouldn't bother me, but now every silence, every creak in the hallway felt charged with tension. We were both avoiding each other, and it was obvious. Around lunchtime, I heard Mom and Dad come home. Dad's voice echoed through the house as he complained about how long the fundraiser had run. I stayed upstairs, not in the mood for small talk. Tyler, Mom called out from the bottom of the stairs. Come down and eat. There was no response. A minute later, I heard footsteps heading toward his room. I held my breath, half expecting her to barge in and find the stash of Emily's clothes. But she just knocked and said something too quiet for me to hear. A few seconds later, her footsteps receded, and I heard the front door open. They were leaving again. Good. Less pressure for now. By mid-afternoon, the tension in the house was suffocating. I needed to get out, clear my head. I grabbed my keys and headed downstairs. Tyler's door remained shut as I passed it, and I couldn't help but glare at it for a second. Part of me wanted to knock, to confront him again, but I didn't. Instead, I drove around town for a while, aimlessly looping through the same roads I'd been on 1,000 times. I eventually parked at a nearby overlook and sat there for what felt like forever, just staring out at the horizon. How did it come to this? I always thought Tyler was just an awkward kid who'd grow out of it. Now I didn't even know who he was anymore. By the time I picked up Emily for dinner, my nerves were shot. She noticed right away. "You okay?" she asked as she got into the car. "Yeah, I lied." She gave me a sideways glance but didn't press the issue for now. We went to a small Italian place near her apartment, one of our favorite spots. The conversation started off light work, school, random stuff, but I was distracted the entire time. My mind kept drifting back to Tyler and the bra. At one point, Emily reached across the table and touched my hand. "Jake, seriously, what's going on? You've been weird all night." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. This was it. I couldn't keep dodging her questions forever, but how the hell was I supposed to explain this without making her freak out? It's about the missing clothes," I said finally. Her eyes narrowed. "What about them?" I hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I found out where they've been going, or who's been taking them." She frowned, leaning in closer. "Wait, are you serious? Who?" "My brother," I said quietly. For a moment, she just stared at me, her expression frozen in shock. Then slowly, the color drained from her face. "Your brother? Tyler?" I nodded, feeling like the biggest idiot on the planet. "I caught him last night. He had some of your stuff." Emily leaned back in her chair, her mouth slightly open. She blinked a few times like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You're kidding." I wish I was. I ran a hand through my hair. "Look, I confronted him. He's ashamed. He doesn't know why he did it. I don't know what the hell's going on with him, but I'm sorry. I had no idea." She crossed her arms, looking away for a moment. "That's disgusting." "I know." For a while, we sat there in awkward silence. I felt like I'd completely shattered her trust not just in Tyler, but maybe even in me. Eventually, she shook her head and sighed. "I need some time to process this," she said softly. "I don't know if I can come back to your place anymore." "I understand," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. The drive back to her apartment was tense and quiet. As I dropped her off, she gave me a small, strained smile. "Thanks for telling me. I'll talk to you later." "Yeah, later." As I watched her walk inside, I knew this wasn't over. The tension between me, Tyler, and now Emily was like a ticking time bomb. Sunday evening, and sooner or later, 3rd of April, 2023. 2 days after I caught Tyler, and everything still felt like it was hanging by a thread. Emily hadn't spoken to me since I told her the truth. Her last text was a short, "I need some space," which hit me like a gut punch. I didn't blame her hell. I'd probably react the same way if I were in her shoes. Still, the silence stung. Meanwhile, Tyler was a ghost in his own home. He barely left his room except for food or the bathroom. When he did, he moved quietly, like he didn't want to be noticed. It was awkward as hell. I couldn't avoid this conversation any longer, but I had no idea how to start. Part of me was still furious, but another part of me knew Tyler was probably drowning in guilt. If I came at him too hard, he'd shut down completely. Dad's voice echoed from downstairs. "Dinner's ready." Great, another opportunity for forced family interaction. I sighed and headed down to the dining room. Tyler was already there, sitting stiffly across from me. He kept his eyes glued to his plate as Mom and Dad chatted about some church event they had coming up. The tension between Tyler and me was like a live wire. "How's school going, Tyler?" Mom asked, trying to spark some conversation. "Fine," he mumbled, barely audible. "You've been really quiet lately," she added with a concerned frown. "Is everything okay?" Tyler shrugged, stabbing at his mashed potatoes with his fork. I clenched my jaw. This was getting unbearable. We were both walking around like landmines, and sooner or later, Mom and Dad were going to notice something was up. I couldn't take it anymore. "Hey, I need to talk to you after dinner," I said, directing the comment at Tyler. He tensed visibly, his fork pausing midair. "About what?" "You know what?" I muttered under my breath. Mom glanced between us, confused. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "It's just a brother thing." Dad snorted. "Brother things, huh? Sounds serious." I forced a tight smile. "It's fine, just catching up." Tyler didn't say another word for the rest of the meal. After dinner, I waited for him in the living room. He tried to sneak past me to get back to his room, but I wasn't letting him off that easy. "Tyler?" I called out. He froze on the staircase, then turned slowly, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "What? Come on, we need to talk. Now." Reluctantly, he walked back down and followed me into the den. I shut the door behind us and crossed my arms, leaning against the wall. Tyler hovered near the doorway like he was ready to bolt at any second. All right, I began, taking a deep breath. We need to figure out what the hell is going on with you, because I can't keep covering for you. I didn't ask you to cover for me, he muttered, his voice defensive but weak. Don't play that game. You begged me not to tell Mom and Dad. I shot back, and I didn't. But this can't keep happening, Tyler. You've got to explain yourself. He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I already said I was sorry. What more do you want? I want to know why, I said, my voice softening slightly. Why would you do something like that? Do you even understand what you've done? I don't know, he admitted after a long pause. His hands fidgeted at his sides. I didn't plan it or anything. I saw her stuff, and I got curious. I know it's messed up, okay? I wasn't thinking. Curious about what? I asked, genuinely trying to understand. He hesitated, then shrugged helplessly. About girls, I guess. I don't really talk to anyone at school. I don't have any friends. I just feel weird. Like I don't know how to deal with stuff. And when I did it the first time, I felt guilty, but then it just happened again. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Part of me wanted to scream at him, tell him how gross and invasive it was, but I could see he was already drowning in shame. He didn't need me to pile on. Still, he needed to face the consequences of his actions. Look, I said, my tone more controlled. I get that you're confused and isolated, but that doesn't give you an excuse to do something like this. You've crossed a line, Tyler. You hurt Emily. She doesn't even want to come over anymore because of this. His face crumpled. I didn't mean to hurt her. Well, you did, I snapped. And now I have to clean up your mess. I had to tell her the truth. Do you know how embarrassing that was? He looked down at his feet, his hands clenched into fists. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'll fix it. I'll apologize to her if you want. It's not that simple. I shook my head. You can't just say sorry and expect everything to go back to normal. You need to get help. I mean it, Tyler. You can't deal with this on your own. His eyes darted up, wide with panic. Are you going to tell Mom and Dad? I hesitated. This was the question I'd been dreading. I still wasn't sure what the right answer was. On one hand, they had a right to know. But on the other hand, I knew exactly how they'd react and it wouldn't be pretty. I don't know yet, I admitted. But if I do, it's because you need help, real help. He nodded slowly, swallowing hard. Okay, I'll do whatever you say. Just please don't let them find out, not yet. For a moment, we stood there in heavy silence. Finally, I pushed off the wall and stepped toward him. All right, I said quietly. But this is your last chance, Tyler. You screw up again and I won't cover for you. Understand? Yeah, he whispered. I gave him a long, hard look before stepping aside and opening the door. Go to your room. We'll figure out the rest later. He nodded and walked past me without another word. As I watched him disappear upstairs, I felt the weight of the entire situation pressing down on me again. I still didn't have all the answers, but at least the confrontation was over. Things had started to calm down, though the awkwardness hadn't fully gone away. Emily and I were on shaky ground, but at least she was willing to talk to me again. It wasn't easy for her to process what had happened, and I didn't blame her. I had to earn back her trust just as much as Tyler had to earn back mine. At the same time, Tyler had been better. Not perfect, but better. The day after our confrontation, I'd sat him down again, not in anger this time, but to talk seriously about what needed to happen next. He was hesitant, almost terrified when I brought up getting help. But after some back and forth, he agreed to at least talk to a counselor at school. It wasn't much, but it was a step in the right direction. It was a cool Thursday evening around May 4th. Mom and Dad were out again, probably at one of Dad's company functions, so it was just Tyler and me at home. I was in the den, flipping through television channels, when I heard a quiet knock on the doorframe. I looked up to see Tyler standing there, looking nervous. Hey, he mumbled. Hey, I replied, setting the remote down. What's up? He hesitated for a moment, then stepped into the room. Can we talk? Yeah, sure. I sat up straighter, gesturing for him to sit on the couch. He hesitated again, but finally plopped down at the other end, keeping a safe distance. For a while, neither of us spoke. He fidgeted with the drawstrings on his hoodie, clearly struggling to find the right words. I wanted to say, thanks, he said eventually, his voice barely above a whisper. For what? For not, telling Mom and Dad. And for giving me a chance. I sighed, leaning back against the couch. I didn't do it just for you, Tyler. I did it because I know how they'd react. They wouldn't handle this the right way. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I know. We fell into another stretch of silence. I could tell there was more he wanted to say, so I gave him time to gather his thoughts. I'm trying, he said after a while. The counselor, she's nice. She doesn't judge me or anything. It's weird, though, talking to someone about this stuff. I get that, I replied. But it's good you're talking to someone. You've got to figure out what's going on in your head. You can't bottle this stuff up. I know, he muttered. I didn't even realize how messed up I was feeling until everything happened. I don't want to be that person, Jake. I don't want people to think I'm a creep. You're not a creep, I said firmly. You made a mistake, a big one, but you're not a bad person. The fact that you're owning up to it and trying to change, that means something. His eyes flicked up to meet mine for a moment before darting away again. Thanks, he whispered. We sat there for a bit longer, the tension easing slightly. It wasn't like everything was magically fixed, but this was progress. For the first time in weeks, I felt like we were actually on the same page. Later that night, I texted Emily. Hey, I had a good talk with Tyler tonight. He's seeing a counselor now. He's really trying to change. Emily, that's good. Yeah, I know it's still weird, but I just wanted you to know. There was a long pause before she replied. Emily, I appreciate you keeping me in the loop. I'm still processing everything, but I don't hate you. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That means a lot. Thank you. Emily, we'll get through this. Just give me some time. It wasn't exactly a declaration of undying love, but it was something. And right now, something was enough. The next few weeks were surprisingly peaceful. Tyler started spending more time outside his room, even joining us for family dinners without needing to be dragged down by Mom. He wasn't completely back to his old self, but there was a noticeable difference. The defensiveness was gone, replaced by a quiet determination to do better. Our parents were blissfully unaware of the storm that had nearly torn everything apart. Part of me wondered if I should tell them eventually, but for now, I decided to keep things as they were. Tyler was making progress, and that was what mattered most. One night around mid-May, we were sitting on the back porch together. It was one of those warm spring nights where the air smelled like freshly cut grass. Tyler was sipping a soda, his gaze distant as he watched the stars. You think Emily will ever come around? He asked suddenly. I hope so, I replied honestly. She's hurt, man. It's gonna take time. Yeah, he sighed. I get that. I wouldn't blame her if she never wanted to see me again. She's not like that, I said. But you have to show her and everyone else that you've changed. Words only go so far. He nodded thoughtfully, taking another sip of his soda. I will. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, the only sound being the distant hum of crickets. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Looking back, I never would have guessed that this would be the thing to bring Tyler and me closer together. It wasn't easy. Hell, it was one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with. But in the end, it forced both of us to grow in ways we hadn't before. Tyler was learning to face his demons instead of hiding from them, and I was learning how to set boundaries not just for him, but for myself too. Trust didn't come back overnight, but for the first time I felt like we actually understood each other. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something better. And as for Emily, I wasn't giving up on us, not yet. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let me know your thoughts. I'm still figuring things out and could use some advice.